Hello, Scholé Groups. Let me introduce myself. I'm Lisa Mayeux, and I am the director of Sanctus Spiritus Scholé. And we have with us today KristinRizzo, and I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hi there, I'm KristinRizzo. I'm the director of All Saints Christian Academy in Cameron, North Carolina.
And we just want to share with you today different options you may have and interests you may have in serving your community through Scholé Groups. You have a variety of options and formats and missions that you can, focuses that you can work on and focus on and tailor to meet your needs and your community's needs. And so Kristin has a group that is on the larger side and is a little bit more of a full service, all inclusive group. And so, Kristin, would you tell us a little bit about the history of your group and how y'all got together?
Sure. This is the second hybrid that I started. The first one was a university model school. And so I had, going into it, some background as to what I wanted to keep and what I wanted to change. And so we started, this is our second year. Of course, it's always interesting. I'm sure nobody has experience of starting a Scholé group or some hybrid up until now during a pandemic year. So that was definitely an interesting year last year. And so it was a little bit sad in one respect because we obviously, for obvious reasons, didn't continue beyond March into the end of the school year. So in some ways, going into the second semester of our second year feels a little bit new, only because we're hoping to finish the year that we didn't get to finish last year. So I am not one of those, I think homeschoolers fall on a spectrum, and I can appreciate those who love to do it all themselves, but I will readily admit I'm not one of those moms. I have 5 children and I know my limitations. I always have. So when it was time to homeschool or school my oldest, it was never really with the intention that I would be able to fully do it all by myself. And then at that time, I had, she was my oldest, and then I had one after her. Now, obviously, I have 5. So I know the demands that can put on a mom to try to juggle motherhood, being a wife, and then obviously schooling 5 children. So I felt like a hybrid really meets the needs quite nicely of larger families or families in general, when moms just feel like sometimes they just want to be a mom and not have to carry the teacher hat all the time. So finding a way to do classical education has always been a passion of mine, but also affordably. That's a huge component, as families who are larger would often find it quite difficult to manage a classical Christian education outside of their home, and under other educational institution when you have that many children to school. So the affordability has always been a huge passion of mine. And so I really have tried to gear our tuition. As you mentioned, we are all inclusive, and that means we actually, hire teachers and pay them to help school our children. So that's where the tuition mainly goes. We have a wonderful campus that is housed at a church, and so they have been extremely gracious and generous to us. We're actually probably at the point now where we need a second campus as we look at next year. So just trying to juggle all of those needs. We meet twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then we build in some other service opportunities, which before the pandemic was relatively easy to do. Post the pandemic has been a little bit challenging, trying to figure out how we can meet the needs in the community with all the limitations that we have. But it was always my intention to start something that had a service component to it. So that's what we do, Tuesday and Thursday. And then they have teacher directed lesson plans at home, so they have been afforded the opportunity as parents to work through those lessons at home and not necessarily have to think of everything that they need to do. We kind of do the thinking for them, and they can print out those lesson plans and kind of know what they need to do.
So on a practical on the boots level, what traditions do y'all follow, and what is your academic style? Like, how do you teach the wisdom and virtue of the classical tradition? Like, what does that look like in your community?
Well, first of all, our days are started with morning prayers in the sanctuary of the church. So for a half hour every day that we're on campus, they're memorizing scripture. We talk about the things of the Lord and make it a matter of importance in how we integrate education, recognizing and stressing the importance of virtue, and mainly also the importance of just recognizing who Christ is and making it about him. I always tell our parents when we do family interviews that it's not about us. It's never about their children. It's always about who Christ is and what he is to them. And the academics will come secondary. I also tell them that, All Saints is not for everybody. And so we stress the character building, their personal and ongoing and community relationship with Christ, because we do believe it's kind of encompassing. It talks about the gathering of the saints. And so we stress the importance of church attendance, obviously Christian education, and a Christian family. And so between that kind of quasi trinity that you might think of it as is extremely important. So coming together and incorporating all of that into the lives of family is really how they're going to see the growth from a spiritual standpoint, whether you're talking virtue, character, their walk with the Lord as individuals, knowing who they are as created in God's image. So it's something we make much about, we talk about quite often, and then obviously try to integrate into the classroom in conversation and in looking it out.
Yeah, it definitely has to start at home. It helps, if you don't have that foundation at home and the focus isn't at home, it's really hard to carry that out, in school. We can't just, you can't be the 2 day a week thing. It has to be every day.
No. Yeah. Yep.
So like-mindedness is important. As much as we want to serve our communities, it has to be the right fit, and that's okay.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Oh, yes. And that is why I tell parents it's kind of why we do an interview process, because we're not for everybody and we're okay with that. There's times where you can just tell probably the educational and spiritual more than educational goals are not necessarily the same. And so there's times where I will just say, I'm sorry, this probably is not the best option for you, just based on your goals and our goals. And so they really do need to be on the same page. Otherwise it just will not work. So we're okay with that.
Yeah. So are y'all primarily online or in person, Kristin?
No, we are primarily in person. We have families that do not want to be online. So not for any lengthy period of time. We have a couple of classes that we do offer online, mainly to 7th grade and up, nothing really in K to 6. So it's all pretty much in person, aside of those few things that for various reasons needed to be online. But when they're online, they're even still, with the exception of one class, they're online on campus, not necessarily at home. So they're kind of still in community, taking a class together online as opposed to just being at home. We have one class that meets at home online, but the rest of them are all on campus.
Is it out of need, or is it something that you're planning on continuing, the online option?
It's mainly out of need. If I didn't have to do it, I for sure would not. I am an incarnate person. Jesus came incarnate. We celebrate the incarnation just a few days ago and still celebrating it. So I would much rather it be in person. I'm not a huge online fan, but sometimes I've just had to accept that it is the reality and I have to be okay with that. So this was more of a need that we just couldn't fill on campus. So,
yeah. So if anyone in your area is looking for a community, your community is an in-person community.
Yes, correct.
All right. Um, and then as far as your academic style goes, how do y'all lead your curriculum? Like, is it more humanities based, or is it like what do you offer?
So it's pretty much all inclusive in the sense that it's everything. Like I said, when I started in earlier years, it was not ever intended for me to have to carry too much of the weight other than sort of the, the teaching at home. But I didn't want to have a place where I had, got three subjects and then I had to figure out the other three. That was just kind of too much for me. So I wanted it to be all inclusive. I wanted a mom who had never homeschooled before, who really wanted her hand held, to say, okay, I'm willing to try this, but you're going to have to walk me through the process. And somebody like that would never, not never, but she's not as likely to take on certain subjects. She just kind of probably wants the whole package. And so we offer the whole package. The only thing that they can sort of opt out of is math. If they prefer to do their own math, math meets all at the same time. So they can go up or down in math, and then they can also just choose a study hall. Generally, if they're in fourth grade or above, K-3 generally has to do our math. They're not old enough to kind of manage a study hall period. So in fourth and up, we let them, choose their own math, and they can bring their math work during the math hour. And then Latin is sometimes a little bit on the kind of depending upon what they had in the past and where they are just academically. Sometimes Latin is one that we sort of let parents either kind of, push off of the table if necessary. But everything else is there provided for
That's
them.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Um, and then about how many students are you in families, just approximately right
We
now?
have about 35 students and about, I don't know, 18 to 20 families, somewhere in
That's a
there.
really nice size. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to share with Scholé Groups and other moms or communities that are looking to start a group, or anybody that's looking for something
Um,
like that in your area?
I would say that having done it as long as I have, being that it's the second hybrid that I've started, if anyone is on the fence about homeschooling, it is the best option to push you into that category because it does. Should you find one that is kind of all inclusive, it'll walk you through and not make you feel like you're missing something, not sure of yourself. Groups that are kind of all inclusive have that focus of trying to help someone come into homeschooling and feel like, okay, I think I can actually do this. So that was always my intention. And I would just encourage moms to look at that and see what options they have in their area. And if they don't have an option, which I didn't either, then I'd find some other families and try to start one because it's possible, having done it now twice. So
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much, Kristin. I really appreciate your time, and I know all the moms and dads and Scholé Groups out there who are looking to either embark on a new journey or to grow the community that they have are really going to appreciate your wisdom. So, thank you so
Well,
much for
thank you.
joining us.
Thank you. Have a very happy new year.
Yes, Happy New Year to everyone.